Hello, everybody. The football experience is back, and what a weekend it's been of football, of results. It sort of feels like the good, the bad, the ugly, right? I guess like
Oh yeah.
for the three. Actually, there's a couple of main talking points, but yeah, that's what it feels like. Actually, there's a bit of
It
good,
barely
there's a bit of
it barely
bad, and
even
there's a bit of
feels like
ugly.
yeah, well I was gonna say barely even feels like there's that middle ground. It just feels like the good and the ugly. If you're not good, you're ugly at the moment. It's
Unless
wow, what a weekend.
unless bad and ugly is like together.
Yeah, I guess so. But my goodness, yeah, what it felt like as the bigger picture, it felt like the temperature on the season just got turned up a notch this weekend and we saw some teams crack and we saw other teams really shine. And yeah, it was a really good weekend. I mean, for football lovers, which I've got that hat on. But when it comes to the other hat that I'll have to put on later, I'm not looking forward to that.
You know, this weekend sort of reminded me of a little bit what they do in AFL. I think in AFL they do like derby weekends where like you have a lot of the teams that have like rivalries that they actually face each other. So there's like 4 or 5 derbies going on, or like they try to get as many in like one game day fixture as possible. Like so, you had two in the EPL, 3 if you include Chelsea Fulham because it is a London derby, but it's not really a big one.
You
But
mean Palace?
oh yeah, Palace. Sorry. Those. Oh wait, was it? It wasn't Brentford Fulham. It was Bournemouth Brentford, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, in Britain they do. I feel like every
They don't really do
season.
it. They
Yeah, but every
try to
season
do
on
it.
Sky Sports you have maybe I would say you have 4 or 5 like marquee sort of super Sundays they'll call it, and they'll put like two games. I know this wasn't the case, but like you might have. I don't know. I remember back when I was over there for a holiday. Um, I had to miss out on a Sunday that had Arsenal against Chelsea and City against United because my mum thought it would be a good idea, and she was right. It was a good idea to go and see a play for the book that we were doing for Year 12 English. And it was a great idea because I didn't have to read the book, I didn't have to read the play, and I got a pair of Total 90 boots out of it. So it was a great deal.
So you were bribed to go.
And it was for my benefit. I was salty on missing out on the Super Sunday though. So that's for the record. But yeah, they you normally have a few of these each year. This was a particularly I know it wasn't a Super Sunday, but with those two fixtures, one to start the week and one to end the week, boy oh boy, they were
But
fun.
just to sort of quickly, just so quick to quickly go through it. How many like derbies or rivalries could we actually get into like one game day fixture? So we can get Everton Liverpool, which is one. We can get the Manchester Derby, which is 2. Is Newcastle Southampton or is that Newcastle Sunderland?
Southampton, that's opposite sides of the country. Sunderland and Sunderland are
Sunderland.
in League One.
It's the
So
other S. But like,
not
so
that
we can't
worry.
get that one. So we got 2 so far. We got Arsenal Tottenham. That's 3.
You can get a few London ones. Get Chelsea Fulham.
Chelsea. That is that an act, or would you rather? Is there any other one that's maybe bigger? No. Yeah, Chelsea Brentford, I think, because Brentford actually share. I think they're actually
No.
close, and they share. Brentford actually used to use Chelsea's training ground as their main ground when they were still in League Two. I think so.
So it's all London, but I'm pretty sure Fulham and Chelsea are both West London, so I think
Yeah.
they're for locality. But anyway, we're digressing. So.
Apparently, Crystal Palace Brighton is a big rivalry from
Oh
the
yeah, of
Championship.
course. Yeah, no, that is a
But
derby for
so
sure.
that's
A weird
4
one.
if you want to, yeah, it's a weird one. Yeah, that's 4 if you want to include that one. Is there any other ones where it's like city based and it's like really heated?
No, not
So
really.
so
Not
you,
when you don't have Birmingham. You don't have Birmingham, Sunderland in the league. They always had good ones against Villa and Newcastle respectively, but with them not in there, I can't really think of any.
Leeds, who would they have? They have United and Arsenal. Well, mostly United.
Leeds United.
Yeah, so but you can't have that one since you have United versus City. But like, so there's only like you could, if you want to do like a super weekend of derbies, you can only do like 3, max 4, considering the teams that are like not in the Premier League.
You're not happy with the 2 that we had on the weekend?
Well, it's just like reverting back to AFL where they tried to put like they have like one weekend of all these like rivalries and derbies. Then they try to do that like once or twice a season. So how many could the EPL actually get into one weekend? Unless they do like a Europe-wide one where you have Barca, Real in the same weekend, you have Bayern, Dortmund in the same weekend. You can have a lot from like a lot of big games from Italy as well in the same weekend. So like unless you actually like schedule it with the rest of Europe and like have like one game finishing and then another game starting and like straight after it, like it'll take an immense effort, but it would be fantastic for the viewer.
That would be a lot easier to coordinate if all of these super teams were in a league together. Maybe called the Super League? I don't know. Maybe that would be easier to coordinate together.
Yeah, but
big games.
The thing is, the only pushback that I'll have on that is that my question would be, would you actually have Tottenham in the Super League? So you'd miss out on that North London derby.
He's getting the digs in early.
It had to be asked. But we're not going to start there. We're going to try to go chronologically. We might not, but at least we're going to start chronologically. So, and we're not going to start.
That's what I did on my European roundup. I'm like, I'll go chronologically, and then before I knew it, I was just all over the shop.
Yeah, you sort of, unless you actually have something written down in front of you, you tend to go all over the shop. But let's start with something a little bit different. Let's start with Italy. There was a big game on Friday night while we were potting. I watched it the next day. I got the result ruined for me because I went over to when I was switching over to our YouTube channel to upload our pod. It came up in because Serie A, the European leagues actually upload highlights. So Serie A uploads highlights, and it came up in the suggested feed straight off the bat, like in the homepage, and it's like. And they put the score in. They're like, "Oh, Napoli, Juve 5-1." I'm like, for fuck's sake! Like, I was actually gonna watch it straight after our pod, and then I just ruined it for me. I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna do something else. I'll watch it tomorrow. Like, so yeah, I watched it straight after the Manchester derby. But yeah, like, take it away, Caleb.
Well, I have a question for you on the back of this. Are Napoli just clearly the best side in the Champions League this season? Is it just crystal clear now?
The way they play, visually, yes.
And it's clear. Like, that's the distinction here. It's not like, oh, this team has a case. For me, I don't know, man. From what we've seen, from the evidence we have in front of our eyes, that's what it appears to me. It's clear to me. Unless
other teams can pick up form, like, we still don't quite know how Real, how they might be once they pick up form. Because, like, you saw them last season where they were in, like, a steady... They weren't just, like, high-flying, but they were in a steady, consistent run of form where they could... But they were led by, like, a Ballon d'Or Benzema. City, they're an
aging core as well.
Yeah.
Was that more a last dance than a consistent sort of thing? Because they're trending the other way at the moment.
But they could still have another last dance. Like, that's the thing as well.
It's like it's like when you're doing fitness and it's like, all right, 10 more sit-ups, and it's like, no, you got to keep going. It's like, no.
Yeah, just have another one in just that drill sergeant. But like, also then City's going through a trough. Liverpool's going through a trough.
Well, no, don't no.
But what? No, but look,
I know Liverpool are one of the sides who have beaten Napoli this season. But it's disrespectful to Napoli to put Liverpool in the same breath as them.
No, but my point is, post World Cup, so far these teams that have returned, they've come back worse after the World Cup than what they were playing before. So Liverpool were. It looked like Liverpool was starting to pick up a little bit of steam, and they were about to pick up a little bit of like togetherness and whatnot and form, and then the World Cup hit. City were. They like, yes, they dropped, like, I think they lost to Brentford just before the World Cup, but like other than that, like they were keeping pretty much a steady pace with Arsenal, or like just like a win or two behind. So these teams that would be favourites, and I think you were trying to claim, Liverpool were doing poorly in the league, but they always shine on a Tuesday or Wednesday night in the Champions League, which they do, especially at Anfield. They can throw themselves as one of the favourites, or even an outside contender.
It's more a cling than a claim, I'll say. I'm clinging onto that, the hope of that.
But then you also throw in a World Cup Messi PSG.
Well, they've only had 2 challenges since coming back from the World Cup, and they've lost them both in losing to Lens and Rennes in two losses in, I think, 3 games. So, and obviously they hadn't.
I was going to watch the Rennes game.
There you go, spoilers. You wanted to see your boy Lovro Maya.
Yeah,
didn't have a great game.
Didn't? Damn.
Maybe have question marks about him having a big impact in the Premier League straight away.
He's still young though, but then again,
I know.
That whole Arsenal team is young though.
I know. He'd probably be a bit old on that team.
No, hang on. But you throw him in around other great players, and usually, and like we can attest to this from when we were playing. Whenever we would play a really good team, we would always like play at that level. But then when we would play a really shit team, we'd always like sort of digress to that level. So, and I think that's the case for a lot of people. I just typed in Lovro and it came up as St. Lawrence. And so like that's sort of anyway. Talk about the game, Caleb. Take it away.
I wanted to start big picture with Napoli because I think, wow, they were great. They've opened up a 9-point gap at the top of Serie A. A pretty competitive Serie A. Serie A, they got 3 teams out of the group stages in the Champions League. And the one that didn't get out of the group is this Juve team, who have come into this game 8 wins on the spin, 0 goals conceded, and 7 conceded all season. And Napoli put 5 past them. And they destroyed them. They were so good. And honestly, the first half, Juve played well. That 5-3-2, I thought, looked really good. I thought it was the best balanced and sort of the most forceful 5-3-2 that Allegri had put out with when you think McKennie plays as one of the wide central midfielders, Rabiot plays the other side, both quite box-to-box, both quite physical. And then you look at the wing-backs with Chiesa and Kostic playing as out-and-out wing-backs, and then you look at Danilo and Alexandro either side of Bremer as the centre-backs. They're all players who can go forward. They're physical. They can go direct like that when they win the ball back. They can get overlaps, underlaps through those players and sort of be forceful when they win the ball back. So I thought the balance, and I thought, honestly, the first half was maybe one of the better performances of Juve of the season. I think back to the first half against PSG where they were just unlocked by a bit of Neymar and Mbappe brilliance, but they were pretty good in that game as well, I thought, with the 5-3-2. But again, they came up against a brilliant team. Well, this team is brilliant. This Napoli team is something else, because what I was saying about Juve is I'm saying Napoli were playing against a really good team here in a really good moment. Maybe not a really good team, a good team in a really good moment, and they just dismantled him. And it's because, well, even when we did the teams one, or when I did the teams 1, 2, and 3 at the or not the halfway, but the World Cup point of the season, I was staggered to see how many Napoli teams players were pretty much no-brainers to get in there. Like even, and we'll talk about Victor Osimhen, who I don't think made any of the 3 teams at that stage. But he'll get special highlight. But a guy I want to highlight now is, like, you think of someone like Lobotka in the holding midfield role. Where's he come from? How can that guy, when you look at him, how can that guy be that good in that role? He is unbelievable that he anticipates everything. He's always an option for the ball. And when he gets the ball, he either plays through a press or he finds the right pass. He is, and when I put his name down on the first team, it was obvious to me at that moment. But then when you actually look at it, it's like Lobotka is the best holding midfielder in Europe and consequently the world right now, playing in the club level. It's just like, wow, this Napoli team all over. You think we've sung the praises of Kim Min-jae. Mario Ruiz, hugely functional. Alex Merritt in goal is fantastic. Giovanni Di Lorenzo, I just love. What a leader. Improved season on season as well, which I really love. Anguissa showed up for this game. Anguissa was marvelous again. Such a physical presence, such good balance in that midfield. Zielinski showed up for this game. Because obviously in that game against Inter, I thought those two went missing, but they both showed up either side of Lobotka. Kvaratskhelia, we haven't had to talk about him so much lately because he's maybe dropped off a bit from the start of the season. Still draws so much gravity to him. Even Politano's chipping in, but Victor Osimhen. Is it time that we start mentioning Victor Osimhen when we're talking Erling Haaland, Harry Kane? Is it time to Lewandowski? Is it time that he gets elevated there now?
If he didn't have that injury at the start of the season, then maybe he would be having similar numbers.
He's approaching them now. I think he's on 14 goals in the season now. Yeah, he's catching up in a big way.
Because he missed out on 6 or 8 games or something like that.
Exactly
at the start through injury. So if he wasn't injured, yeah, he probably would have 20 goals.
Yeah, he'd be pushing those numbers with those guys. And honestly, like I said, with Kvaratskhelia sort of maybe dropping off a bit, maybe teams loading up on him a bit after an unexpected start, like this Napoli team, an unexpected start. But they keep rolling, and I think Victor Osimhen has been the main piece of that going into the World Cup and post-World Cup. And I think he's only 24. His leadership is unbelievable. The way he leads the line, he does his work off the ball. He's a modern-day striker. He's tall. He's quick. And his hunger for goals is sensational, but it doesn't get in the way of him being a good team player as well. And yeah, this guy needs to... if he continues to play this way and lead Napoli to a title, which looks odds on now with a 9-point gap, and I guess maybe later in the pod we need to talk about their challenges. We're talking about Juve now. I don't think Juve need a big post-mortem. I didn't think they were that great going into this game, but they had a good run of form. But as well, I didn't think they played that badly in this game. They sort of fell behind and then they tried to chase it a bit, and Allegri sort of got it wrong by leaving Kostic on an island at left back. And even a player like Elmas comes in and he scores a goal and he's been in good form. So this Napoli team gives me sort of Liverpool vibes last season, where if one player drops off, another player will come in and pick up the slack. So if Zielinski's not playing well, Elmas can come in and play well. If Anguissa's not playing well, and Ndombele will come in and do something creative in there, And even someone like... I forget the left back's name, the Uruguayan, who's back up to Rui. He's a good function. They've got a deep squad as well. And yeah, the cherry on top, Victor Osimhen, if he could lead them to a title. And the bigger point for me is maybe a Champions League title. Then my goodness, what a season it will be for Napoli as a whole. But he'll be a big part of it, and he'll be in that echelon of those top guys at the end of it all. Because for me, footballing wise, Napoli are clearly the best team in the Champions League, but there's another team who would rival them in Europe right now that we're going to talk about as well.
Well, that's what's coming to mind straight away. It's a shame that we're not gonna see these two teams play at this point in time, because who knows where they will be next season, whether they'll be better, whether they'll be the same, whether it might fall off because other teams might come in for their players. And someone comes in and offers 100 mil for Osimhen, they're losing a big piece of that puzzle.
You'd be mad to, for me, Napoli even sell him if they do go on and accomplish great things this season and leave this Napoli team at this stage. Because we've had underdog stories before, challenge for leagues, win leagues across some leagues, but this one, I don't know. Napoli have been perennial challengers, so how big an underdog? But this one, the football they're playing is off the scales, and the way they can win games in every which way you ask of them, and it's just sensational to watch at this stage.
So
that's why we're leading the pod with them.
Yeah, and so for you, are they your Champions League favourites?
Yeah, at this stage, is with the facts that we've seen so far in terms of the matches and the performances, they turn in the best performances. They have the least question marks about them. They have good squad depth. They've already proven that they can get through a period without Victor Osimhen, and they got players who are ready to come in. So I'm not worried about that in terms of the league, certainly. Champions League, I mean, it's hard to call a winner from this stage with only knowing what the round of 16 is. We don't know what the quarterfinals will be. Should they get out of the quarterfinals? Because two-legged football, while obviously you've got two legs, so normally the better team comes out of it. It doesn't always work that way, though, because there is still a lot of luck that goes into just two legs. So, but yeah, in terms of the football, in terms of who the best team in that competition are, hands down, Napoli for me. The least questions and just the most sort of complete team in there.
I think I'd have to agree on that point. However, Champions League is played from February to May, and we're only in January, so a lot can happen. There could be a dip in form, there could be injuries. Hopefully, they can continue along this path because, like you said, they're a joy to watch. And you know how when we're doing our Champions League predicted round of 16. How I mentioned that I'd love to see City versus Napoli, because at that point in time, City was playing, as you would expect, some of the best football in Europe, one of the other teams. But at the moment, though, I'm not sure I'd be as excited for that match, considering how City have been playing post-World Cup.
And that's the point, isn't it? It is mainly that Napoli are this good, but it is also that at this moment as we speak, all the other more impressive sides in Europe actually aren't playing in the Champions League. Now we'll see what Bayern come back, but Bayern, they've had a troublesome sort of time off with so many of obviously those German players going to the World Cup and failing, and then Manuel Neuer getting injured, Lucas Hernandez getting injured, Sadio Mane, we don't know how long that one will be in itself. So they're not without their troubles. Yeah, just, I don't know. That's the point for me as well. All the other teams in this competition, the super teams that we expect to be in this competition, they're quite depleted at the moment. And then you think of Newcastle not playing any European football, Manchester United and Barcelona playing each other in the Europa League, which will be worthy of any of those Champions League ties, honestly, on the way those teams, or at least getting results in Barcelona's case and performing in United's case, and we'll definitely touch on United as well. But yeah, and then Arsenal, obviously. Napoli and Arsenal are the two football-wise best teams in Europe, without a doubt. There's no other teams touch them this season, honestly. They're miles ahead for me.
It's hard to split them, actually. The only thing I'd probably...
It'd be a great game,
The only thing that I'd probably give to Napoli is that they look like they have more goals in them than Arsenal because they have Osimhen, whereas Osimhen. And look, this isn't a slight on Nketiah, but or on Jesus, because Jesus only has 3 or 4 goals to his name this season as well, and he's been playing every week up until his injury. But our goals don't seem to be coming from our centre forward the same way that Napoli, where their goals can come through their centre forward, even though their other players are chipping in. But if it falls to Osimhen, you're like, okay, this is more than likely going to be a goal, or at least a very dangerous opportunity. Whereas if it falls to Jesus or Nketiah, you're like, okay, this is an opportunity rather than a very dangerous opportunity or more than likely going to be a goal.
Yeah, that's a good point. It would be one hell of a match, and I reckon that's a great segue to go into Arsenal now. And I'm going to let you have the floor as the resident Arsenal supporter. One happy man, I imagine.
Well, I don't know if this weekend could have actually gotten better in terms of results because, like, you know how I spoke on our preview pod, I was like, I don't want... a draw would probably be the best case scenario because I don't want United winning just because they're going to start... I told you, like, the news outlets are going to start throwing them into the title race. And I sent you a screenshot of Talk Sports, the title of their live show straight after that match. And it was something like, can United win the title? It's like, man, they're still like 8 points behind or whatever. And you're saying, and you're already throwing them into the title race just because, yeah, they're in a pretty good run of form. I think they've won 8 in a row, if I'm not mistaken, or 9 in a row now. But even so,
yeah,
like,
don't forget Liverpool were that many points behind last season.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think City might have even had a bigger lead before that. But Liverpool did have 2 games in hand. Like, I think it was like 11 points with 2 games in hand or something along those lines. But even so, like, I was like, yeah, I'd still rather draw just so that the United fans don't get ahead of themselves and the media outlet doesn't get ahead of themselves because then that widens the gap. But the even better one was, at least points-wise, was that United actually got the win. So that game being on Saturday, the Arsenal players or the team knew exactly what they needed to do on Sunday, and they went out and did their job. Like, and it was a nice contrast to see the first half and the second half as well, because the first half it seemed like it was complete domination almost. Like they were just sort of in certain periods, it seemed like they were toying with Tottenham as well. Like, not necessarily toying in an arrogant way, but just toying because, like, they know that they're better than them and they're just moving and passing the ball around very cleanly, in a very coordinated and very quick pace as well. And there was that one period, I think around the Odegaard goal, I think it was like a 5 or 10 minute spell where like it just seemed like they were bombarding the goal. I think in that spell came that Partey volley. Do you remember that one?
I remember that one.
Dude.
Oh my goodness.
I was just like, whoa. I think everyone was like, you saw the players as well, like, react like, holy shit. Like,
yeah, you know what I love about that moment? Nothing about what is about to happen is shocking until there is contact made with the ball. And then when you see that ball is like traveling towards the goal at velocity, then everyone's like, everyone's just shocked when that happens. But like when the ball's falling from the sky, everyone knows what is about to happen. He is going to try and volley this like a rocket towards the goal. Yeah, first time. Everyone can see it. It's like he's got to do it. Like, you'd be annoyed if he didn't give it a try.
Yeah.
But you never see them come off the foot or the shin, maybe.
It came off the shin, I'm pretty sure, as well.
Oh, wait, then this is the point. I want to make a quick point on Thomas Partey because he was out here looking like 2 absolute legends today. That moment was pure Zidane. The ball coming from the sky, and then they're just, whoa, just unbelievable nature of the strike. And then the handball that he did get booked for at the start of the game. That was, and this is throwback. Like the old Brazil captain from 58, Hilderano Bellini, back in the day, he took advantage of the fact that you wouldn't get booked if you just like caught the ball. So if he was out of position, he would just catch catch the ball as it was traveling over his head and then drop it for the free kick. And it's just like, what just happened?
No, but you're referencing legends. Messi did a handball like that against Netherlands, where he just like put his hand up and handballed it.
Yeah, exactly. And he did get. Yeah.
But this was actually less obvious because it was more like I think he was trying to outstretch, and because you to balance yourself, you actually need to use your arms to balance yourself. So that's why his arm was outstretched.
Yeah. Good defense. It's definitely yellow card.
No, but
it doesn't. We don't need to get into refs because this game was not about refs.
It wasn't. But dude, that like I'm talking about the volley now. Like it wasn't even a goal, but like
I know
it would
unbelievable.
It would have been goal of the season, and like then you top that off. You put that. That's like not even the cherry on the. That's like not even the icing on the cake. It's not even the cherry on the cake. It's like it's the stem of the cherry on the cake. Like that.
But it's edible.
Yeah,
they've made it edible.
Yeah, it's an edible stem. It's like we don't need this, like the way that everything's going. But like holy shit. But you know what? The entire first half, I was thinking, what the hell is Tottenham's game plan?
Okay, I want to touch on this because you said dominating, they were clearly the better side, and Arsenal knew it. But Arsenal knew it after, and I'm gonna bear with me here. Okay, bear with me. I'm gonna take us down a little bit. But I saw this on a David Attenborough, and it's. And so there's this fungus in one of the rainforests. Rainforest. I don't know which one, but it's out there somewhere, and it infiltrates like insects, like ants and little spiders and stuff.
I think I might know about.
And it gets into their system, and it sort of zombifies them for a little bit, and sort of controls their actions. And then when it's time for it to like just keep growing, it just petrifies those insects and grows out of their brain, out of their head. It's like, it's one of the most horrific, horrifying things I've ever seen. It's haunting. That Lloris mistake was nearly as bad. I put it on the same scale. You're playing at home. I actually thought Tottenham made a decent start. Like I said in the preview, I'm like, they need to get out a few times. They need to like break the press. They did break the press a few times. I thought the wide areas between the wingers and the wingbacks were sort of causing Arsenal trouble, because I think you can get at Zinchenko and wide a bit if you can pull them away from their structure. When they're in the structure, when they're in their zones that Arsenal want them to be in, they're perfectly fine. If you could start to spread them out and play them away from that, then you could get some joy. The problem is Tottenham have shit wingbacks. Let's be honest about it. The two wingbacks are horrific. And we'll talk about that in a bit.
No, hang on, just before you go on to that.
But look, wait, I want to bring this full circle. Lloris, with that mistake, is the fungus that infiltrates the whole Tottenham team. The whole Tottenham team had lost all confidence after that moment. If they came in, and the stadium, they came in and I think they were ready to at least put up a better fight than that. And Lloris, with his mistake and his form, just sucks everyone's confidence out. And it was never going to be a good night after that, especially Tottenham going 1-0 down. What do you do from that point? And then you can start to ask questions of the gameplay. But I thought they started the game relatively well. I still think Arsenal were the better team to start the game. And the big thing for me is Arsenal's, I've always said they're great at containing, but the first part of containing is getting yourself into the territory to contain. And the way they eat up space reminds me of prime Liverpool teams under Klopp, with particularly like an Andy Robertson driving the ball forward into space. Players like that, if there's space, Henderson, if there's space in front, they'll eat it, and then they'll get the support around it. And a lot of it comes down to your wingers as well, with Saka and Martinelli always being a threat on either counter-attacks or just by keeping the width and going one-on-one. And yeah, Bukayo Saka had Sessegnon absolutely on toast. But Lloris, my God, he needs to be dropped. There is a Keylor Navas maybe sitting at PSG who never gets a game. Maybe it's time to bring in someone, but you need to have the option to drop Hugo Lloris at the moment, because it's better for everyone's sake. He can't keep playing in the form he's in. He's been in wretched form, and the way he performed today, especially for that first goal, is just nowhere near good enough. And it made this a non-contest before. I was interested to see how it would develop, but yeah, Arsenal came away they showed the class gap between first and fifth.
Yeah, just on your wingers point. I did actually in the first maybe 5-10 minutes. I did actually see that with Sessegnon. I think he got released twice on that left side. But you know what Paul Merson said? With that formation, your wingers need to actually be the best players in the team. Example, Reece James and Ben Chilwell. Well, Ben Chilwell might not be the best player. Your wingbacks. They might not. Ben Chilwell might not necessarily be the best player in that team, but he's
he can create, he can score. He's very good.
He's probably one of the better wingbacks or left backs in the league, at least
when he's fit.
Yeah, when he's fit,
if ever.
and then Reece James probably is might be one of the best player at Chelsea.
Yeah,
I don't think there's really any arguments there. Maybe Kovacic from a technical standpoint, or Kante as well.
Silva.
Yeah, they'd have arguments, but at least Reece James
or Mudryk. Or too soon.
We'll get on. We'll finish when we finish with the whole Arsenal thing. We'll get onto that one. But back to that one. Yeah, like Paul Merson said it. Your left and right wing backs need to be the best players in the team if you're going to play that formation. And yeah, Sessegnon just did not have any quality. I think he got released once and then by Kane, and then he had a shot on goal. I'm not sure if that was pre-goal or post-goal. But it was a fantastic save by Ramsdale as well. Ramsdale had a fantastic game as well. Showed that he should be England's number one going forward. Lloris, on your point...
Pope has an argument.
They both have arguments, really. Yeah. Lloris, though, on your point, this is the second North London derby that he's decided.
Yeah, no, man, it's crazy. The mistakes are out of control. They're out of control, especially this season. He cannot, for his own good, he needs to be dropped.
Yeah.
As much as anyone else's own good.
But you know...
Who's their backup? Is it Fraser Forster?
I think so.
Oh, I don't like that.
But you know, Pickford's been rumoured to go to Tottenham. But Pickford has the same mistakes in him, I feel.
Yeah. No, I think we made that point on one of the pods of maybe
going
into the transfer window.
And before the Saka goal, what about the Nketiah chance as well? That was on him. That was on him creating that pressure. Yes, he saved it, but if that fell to Nketiah's right foot, or if what Ian Wright was saying, that he should have taken that first time instead of letting it bounce, so you take it before the bounce, then he's scoring that goal. Then
Lloris has made another mistake. Yeah,
Lloris has made another mistake.
It's week on week at this stage. It's crazy.
Yeah, but
the goal is so feeble. The ball sort of loops into the.
It did take a deflection. It did take a deflection off of Sessegnon.
It just doesn't matter.
I know you're still meant to be doing better. Because it was off Saka's. You know when you're shooting with your weaker foot, you don't strike through the center of the ball. You sort of strike down and up, so it creates this sort of loopy topspin. That's what it was, because Saka he tried to cross it with his right foot, so he didn't hit through the center of the ball that has that more. It doesn't so it has that direct movement or flight path. Yeah, this had, but it's also then it became even more loopy because it took a slight deflection off of Sessegnon as well. But
you're a great defense attorney. You're making Lloris's defense case here. I'm not buying it, by the way.
You can't be.
I know.
You still can't be doing that. He flapped it into the goal.
Yeah. No, it was terrible to watch.
Horrific. But to my opening question though, I didn't see necessarily what Tottenham's game plan was, because they didn't sit in a low block of two banks of five like Newcastle, where they tried to cut off those passing lanes to Ødegaard in the gaps that he finds between the defense and the midfield. They didn't do that. They didn't try a high press to press Partey and to press White and Zinchenko. They didn't do that either. They were just open.
Think about where all those problems stem from. and it's the fatal flaw in this formation.
But it's not just that; it's the instructions as well. Because then you saw a contrast in the second half where they came out and they played with a little bit more intensity. They played with a slightly higher press, and they actually started to create chances or at least ask questions of the defense.
Well, but did Hugo Lloris make a horrific mistake in the second half? No, like this is my point. I actually thought I could see the game plan. They were going to sacrifice midfield, which is where all these problems that you just laid out stem from in a 3-4-3 formation. You're going to get swamped in the center of the park. It's just going to happen. I think that's maybe why he plays Sarr in this game, because he wants those legs as well. But what he was going to try and outweigh that with was the wide areas, where I think you can get a little bit of joy against Arsenal, against White and Zinchenko. So it's a zero-sum game. If you're gonna be given something to the team, you got to take something away with that system. So that's what happened there, and they were getting out of that Arsenal press, which I think is probably the most important thing you have to do when you play Arsenal, and especially at home, because you have to be seen to be creating some momentum, some chances. So I could see the game plan, but at the same time, I can't see the game plan from the personnel sense, because the wing backs are shit. Sessegnon and Doherty are just useless, man. And I think going forward for Tottenham, they need to move away from that 3-4-3, because unless they're willing to go out and get a Denzel Dumfries from Inter, who's not playing at the moment, who could be a match changer in the Premier League with that physicality and that ability to get up and down, why are you persevering with wing backs when it's probably the worst position you have in your whole squad on both sides? Well, Perisic is a good wing back.
Yeah, but do you think he should have maybe started Perisic instead of
definitely
Sessegnon?
Yeah, I think Perisic would have produced more than Sessegnon did when he broke out.
Yeah, the end product would have been of a higher quality or a higher standard. But I want to add a little bit of just a layer of Arsenal bitterness. I've got to do it because there always seems to be a layer. And it's not even Arsenal's fault. I'll say this as well. Too much Eddie Nketiah. He's fine. He's serviceable. He's doing a great job as the deputy to Gabriel Jesus. We don't need the sit down. We don't need the interview. We don't need the close-ups before the match. We don't need to expect this guy. He's going in there like peak Messi. He's not peak Messi, all right? This is Eddie Nketiah. Too much Eddie Nketiah. And he missed those chances today. So can we move on a little bit? He's serviceable. He's doing a very good job. I will say that. But his job is not to be the superstar. I've had it. That's enough. You got a little bit of hater blood running through you.
I don't need that much Eddie Nketiah.
ever since he got the number 14. I personally think
it was the contract. It was the contract dispute for me. That's what did it for me. That's what annoyed me. It's like he had done nothing at that point. It's like, why are you having a contract dispute with Arsenal?
Yeah, I don't think he should be on $100,000 a week. I think Saka apparently is on 40.
Well, he's proving maybe he should be.
I think Saka apparently is on 40.
Well, give that man a pay rise because he is your best player.
He should be on 150, like minimum. Like considering if you look at the
he should be on 250. Look at Marcus Rashford.
Yeah. But you know what, actually, and this will sort of segue into I guess you could consider this the bad of the weekend, at least from an Arsenal perspective, the whole Mudryk thing. But since we're on contracts, I had a thought yesterday, like, how do you actually give players contracts that motivate them and also don't disrupt the team? Like, give them bigger contracts. Because like we've seen, for instance, with Aubameyang, you gave him, I think it was like $350 a week, and his form just went completely in the dumpster. Salah, $350 a week. Has he deserved $350 a week since he got that new contract? I don't think so. He hasn't shown that he's a $350 a week player.
He's playing in a pretty bad team. He's been not as good as normal. His numbers are still all right, and for what he has already done, it's hard to argue. Look,
you're making excuses for him now.
No, I know you're on the trade. No, it's not excuses. I know you're on the trade of sell Mo Salah, and I might be there with you. I might agree with that. But I don't want to make it sound like Mo Salah is not a modern day great, because he is a modern day great. So when we're talking about this shit, it needs to be prefaced with the layer of this guy is or was. I think he still is, but he maybe has gotten a bit stale. But was like truly a modern day great for Liverpool and for the Premier League, and his numbers suggest that.
Look, we're going to get into Salah when we get into Liverpool, but in terms of like my idea for contracts though, like have these guys on, like, and this is to like not blow the wage bill out of proportion as well, and to keep everyone in check and to keep everyone motivated as well. And it sort of goes back to when I used to work in sales, and it's basically don't give them that baseline high wage. So give them like, 100 grand, 150 grand, but then add on top of that bonuses. So you not just individual bonuses. So like, for instance, if you give someone like, score 20 goals, they're going to be selfish then. So make it goal contributions. So have 20 goal contributions. So you can have 10 goals, 10 assists, for instance. Then on top of that, you have team bonuses as well. So if the team does well, then everyone gets a bonus. So you can have, for a team like Arsenal, it's like, okay, win the league, like, or get top four, for instance. Like this season, the goal was get top four. So if the team gets top four, everyone gets like, the whole team gets, let's say, a 10 grand bonus or 20 grand, whatever the budget can afford. That keeps the team.
A lot more than that.
But the point that I'm trying to make is you have a combination of team bonuses and individual bonuses, but you make sure the individual bonuses aren't selfish ones. So my idea, goal contributions rather than goals scored. Like, so that would include an assist. But also what you do is for midfielders and forwards, you add in a bonus for them to get clean sheets as well, not just for the defenders to get clean sheets or the goalkeeper as well. Because like forwards and midfielders generally don't have a clean sheets bonus from what I've heard. Like defenders can get that thrown in. So that would be like at least my way of trying to run a football club and trying to give players these contracts without the wage bill blowing up. Because my contention for Liverpool was once you give Mo Salah $350 a week, Van Dijk is going to want 250 or 300. Robertson's going to want 150, 200, 250. Trent as well, he's going to want somewhere around that same ballpark. So like every one of those players that have been key and instrumental for your team is going to want a 50 to 100 grand wage bump added on. So this is a way to keep things in check. And then obviously you can do a similar thing for mid-table teams. It's like, okay, we'll get 8th position or qualify for Europe, for instance, like whether that be Conference League or whether that be Europa League. That's the motivation. For a team like, for instance, like Brentford or Fulham, it's like, okay, if we get Europe this season, everyone gets a 10 grand or 15 grand bonus or whatnot. So teams should look more towards installing these sort of packages rather than just giving them a flat 200, 250 a week wage bill or wage.
I'm pretty sure they get the bonus.
They get the bonus on top of the massive wages. Yeah, which is nuts.
No, it is nuts. And there was, I think, Eric Ten Hag has recently come out and said, well, I don't know if it was recent.
I saw that. It's called the Ronaldo clause. Yeah, they're calling it the Ronaldo clause or something like that. So I think they made it that they can't go over I think they said 200,000 a week.
Yeah, 200.
So
it was crazy, and I totally agree with the principles and what that would mean. And I really don't think any professional footballer should be getting paid more than £200,000 a week. That is an extraordinary amount of money to get paid to play football. I just don't think these mega contracts should exist. But this is the world we live in. It's gotten to a ridiculous point. It's gotten to a point because we're living through it right now. It's the January transfer market. I barely pay attention to the numbers when they're put out, and the numbers are ridiculous. Because you wanted to segue to Mudryk, here we are, we're doing it. What
And
is it? 100 mil, and I heard it was an 8.5 year contract.
yeah, 8.5. I heard it was 7.5,
Madness.
and then the next day I'm like, then it said 8.5. But like the fact that it's the fact that between okay, so this is like I'll try to spend a little bit of time on this, well not too much time. So basically, Mudryk for the past couple of weeks, he's been on social media. He's been like showing that he's watching Arsenal games. He's been supporting Arsenal. He's been basically flirting with the idea of going to Arsenal, saying and pretty much stating publicly, "I want to go to Arsenal. I want to go to a team that is doing really well. They're showing a lot of progression. There's a project here." And he basically showed his intention to go. So it's like, okay, fantastic. The player wants to go. He even agreed personal terms. By all reports, he agreed personal terms, whatever they might be. I'm not sure whether that's 50 grand a week, 100 grand a week, whatever it is. He agreed personal terms with Arsenal, but the sticking point was obviously Arsenal not wanting to blow out their transfer budget. And it started off at 60 mil, which for a 22-year-old who hasn't necessarily proven himself, it's like, okay, it's reasonable for someone that might potentially be like a really good, like a really big future star. Like by watching him play, you're like, okay, he definitely has the potential to be a really important player. So 60 mil, and then it goes up to 70 mil, then it goes up to 80, then it goes up to 90, and then it's like, nah, Shakhtar isn't selling for less than 100. It's like, well,
No, but we know the exact moment when it went to 100 mil.
When Chelsea got involved, and also not just that, also when Arsenal started to show that they're going to win the league.
No. It happened last transfer window when Man United paid 100 mil for Anthony, and then they're like, well, that guy. We think our guy's as good as that guy, so we'll take nothing less than 100 mil.
Yeah, but then it just seemed like it just seemed like that Shakhtar were look, and this is I can see Shakhtar's perspective where it's like, well, we got a contract with this player, we want money for him, and like we believe this is his value. So it's the same thing if you're selling something on Facebook Marketplace and you want to sell it for $100 and someone's offering you $50, it's like, well, no, I value this at $100. So I can see their perspective. They're trying to get maximum value from the player, but then it also seemed like they were sort of holding him hostage or ransom almost. From one, at least from an Arsenal perspective, it's like, well, what more do we need to do? But then, look.
Wait! Just on that picture, do you reckon Dario Serna was there as he's like holding him hostage the whole time?
Just got a gun.
He's just got him like tasered up or something if he tries to make a run for it.
No, well, not really, because like the message would have been, we're not selling you for less than 100. In summer, we can potentially accept slightly less than 100, because then he'd have like 6 months less on his contract and whatnot. So it's either like you move now for 100, or you move in summer for potentially less, potentially more. Who knows? But then you throw in the fact that the player has wanted to go to Arsenal, at least publicly, and then he ends up choosing Chelsea. But then I can also understand the player's perspective. It's like, well, why wouldn't you sign a big money deal? Because like he definitely signed a higher wage structure at Chelsea. So like, if me and you were offered a professional contract, like let's say Barcelona offered us 50,000 a week, and then Brentford offered us 100,000 a week. Like who would you move to? And we're 31. Well, we're going to be 31 this year. So
who are the clubs?
Brentford and Barcelona.
I don't know. Living in London, Brentford, playing for Thomas Frank. Seems like a good time.
But also you're getting twice as much weekly. Like you add in that on top. So I can understand the player's perspective. I can understand the club's perspective. But like Chelsea also, like we spoke about it, like they're just throwing money around. Like does he actually fit the project that that they're trying to build and whatnot. Maybe he does. I don't know. But like but also Nkunku's coming in as well. They just got João Felix on loan, to be fair. But like they're just gun ho, sort of throwing fuck tons of money around. I think they've spent close to 400 mil since Bowley's come in. It's like how the question then I have is like how haven't these guys broken financial fair play rules? Like I think that financial fair play works on a 3-year rolling basis. So they look at like the last 3 years, like every new year. So that means that they've actually if that's the case, they've actually shot themselves in the foot, like next transfer window and the one after. So they're shooting themselves in the foot for the next transfer windows until this one goes out of the last 3 years. So for the next 3 years, they need to be really careful, otherwise they can get like massive fines and stuff, and they can get transfer bans like they have in the past. But yeah,
are you a bit bitter? Are you a bit upset? Get you, man.
A little bit, because like that happened on Saturday. It's like by all accounts, Saturday morning.
He showed up to Stamford Bridge.
Yeah. The thing, but like on Saturday morning, all accounts were like, oh, Edu's flying out to, I think they were in Poland, or like the Shakhtar board was in Poland. So like Edu's flying out to Poland, he's going to wrap up the deal, and then like Saturday night rolls around, it's like, oh, Chelsea have signed him. It's like, what the fuck, man? They've just, it just feels like they've like I said on the last pod, like they've just randomly throw themselves into the hat because another team has shown mega interest in a very good player. I don't know now who the targets are. Like Trossard's been rumoured as a potential target, and he's had his falling outs with Brighton and De Zerbi. I'm not sure whether we really need him or whether he fits the profile of the club, because like I think Arteta has said he wants players that want to come to Arsenal and play for the badge and not play for the massive wages, which Arsenal haven't, like by history, they haven't shown that they're going to pay massive wages anyway. But he wants players that want to play for the club. And for instance, someone like Mudryk has just shown he wants to play for wages, not for the club or not for the badge. So
riddance.
Yeah, so like,
we never needed you anyway.
But like I said, I don't know who the other targets are that the board or that Arteta has in mind. But hopefully we do bring in one or two players, so that we can actually solidify this title run.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Everything goes according to plan. You get very few injuries, as you kind of has to this point. You've had, obviously, Jesus is the big one. Zinchenko was a little bit in and out at the start, but for the most part, you've had a clean run of health here. So if that continues, it just won't matter, because that starting 11 is so good, and we're proving that Nketiah is an able deputy. So you're fine there. Getting backups is always a tricky one, because what do you want to do? You want to get someone who's good enough that if you do have someone injured for a sustained period, that they can fill the boots somewhat, but they also can't be so good that they're going to want game time over the other person. So it's always a tightrope to walk with backups. But yeah, but look, honestly, it only depends on if Arsenal get injuries at this point, because I agree. I don't know what the targets are, and I don't know what the profile is either. I think we've both been saying it all year. It has to be a holding midfielder backup, but I don't know where that is. So I don't know who they're looking at. To be quite honest.
And look, we're gonna just finish with this one, and then move on to United City. But it's even more of a perfect week, because Arsenal have now put Tottenham in a position where, and because of the City loss, where if Tottenham beat City on Thursday, they open the gap up even more. So not only did Tottenham lose to Arsenal, in the same week that they're facing City, but like if they beat City, they do Arsenal 2 favors in the same week. So like, like what kind of position are they in now? I don't know if I know if we'll finish with that, but like, did you also see the fan kicking out at Ramsdale at the end of the game?
I didn't actually see it, but I saw the fuss that was made after it. In terms of like just people surrounding it and stuff, obviously.
But like a fan actually he didn't jump the board, but I think he put it like he kicked, like he got to the board, like the sponsor board, and then he actually kicked him in the ribs or something, or in the back. So yeah, hopefully that guy gets banned for life.
Yeah, just to wrap it up. Obviously that's unacceptable, but just to wrap it up, because we'll talk about Chelsea and the theatre of Mudryk being unveiled at Stamford Bridge. I guess we should mention that they also got a 1-0 win against Palace. And Kepa actually played really well in this game, so he's not quite at the Laurie stage of drop him just yet. But yeah, with Chelsea, the shit show just continues. So scattershot, and yeah, who knows what they're doing? But they're fine entertainment, both. Well, not on the pitch, but off the pitch, definitely.
I honestly hope they
crazy.
they get a transfer ban, because Todd Bowley is an absolute cunt.
Oh my god!
He just like you said, he came in. He's like, "Oh, I know football better." They're like, "You guys should change this, change that." Like, and then like he's just doing these things, and then like this, this is the stem, the edible stem, or the non. This is the non-edible stem from an Arsenal perspective. On top of the cherry, on top of the icing, on top of the cake. In terms of like this whole weekend, and like in terms of everything that he's done, like he's just doing things to like. And like he also went for Rafinha when Arsenal were trying to go for Rafinha as well. Like he also, like he basically like raised the transfer price by like Arsenal's going for him. Why don't I go for him as well? Like maybe that's like American tactics in like NBA and stuff. Like they're like, oh, maybe if we bid more and raise the price, then that will score over another team, like a rival. But on the table and on the pitch, Chelsea isn't necessarily showing that they're a rival to Arsenal, so yeah. Anyway,
on that note, this will be a good chance to have a little break and then do the second half of the pod.
Yeah. And we are back, Caleb.
I figure while we're on the topic of shit shows and we're talking about Chelsea, It's time. All right. I have to put my Liverpool hat on. You get to pile on a little bit because if we're talking about shit shows, we got to talk about Liverpool at the moment. My goodness. So you can once again have the floor
Uh,
because I don't really want to talk about this,
I don't know if there's much to be
but I'm
said
going
though,
to.
because like I think we said on the last part of the one before that, it's like what's going on at Liverpool? Like it just doesn't seem like they're clicking, they're getting torn apart. Oh, that's one since just sort of reverting back to signings. Mitoma from Brighton. I'd love to see him at Arsenal. He's looking like he's a really good player. Even when we played him a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago, like he looked very dangerous, like very good player. And like, dude, he was carving up Trent. But
There was
is that really something new? Like seeing Trent being carved up this season.
Trent's not the problem, and I'm not gonna.
He's not. But
in fact,
he's not the
Trent
bigger
is somewhat
problem.
the solution at the moment. The only time we create chances is off some sort of world class pass from Trent. To be quite honest, but there was a moment in the first half where you could audibly hear Brighton supporters. The game was still at 0-0. And you could audibly hear in the microphones, one of the microphones pitch side must have caught this. You could audibly hear the Brighton supporters when the ball was travelling to Matoma against Trent. They were like, gone. And then you could audibly hear once he turned him, there was laughter. They were laughing. And it was just, oh my God, how the mighty have fallen. We are getting laughed at the Amex.
Dude,
this is horrendous.
That reminds me of like playing back in like juniors when like oh skin him like you'd be watching like the resis or like even like later on like watching resis and seniors where like you'd watch each other like before your game or after your game and then like you just like hear like when you know you're like your winger is like just top quality and then like he just has the left or right back on toast and then you just hear like mocking and laughter and yeah.
Man, it was terrible. And to your point, everything works against this Liverpool team. Everything you want to bring to the game works against Liverpool. You want to put crosses into the box? They work. Set pieces? They'll work as well. You want to play direct balls over the high line? They'll work. You want to play through the midfield? That'll work as well. You can do anything you like against this Liverpool team and it'll all work. Interplay around the box? Yep. You can open us up. Oh man, it's tactically, I think the one thing you can focus on the football, club needs to use the cheat code. He needs to go to the 5-3-2. We need some sort of solidity. We just need more numbers behind the ball. We need a solid shape. The 5-3-2, I've been saying it in recent weeks, it's kind of like for me, and I guess I've only just cracked onto it, and it's a reason why. Both my older age groups coach teams that I coached, both under 16s groups. I use 5-3-2 with them, and it's because it's kind of a cheat code where maybe you want that solid shape. You want to make sure that you're not outnumbered in midfield, so you got 3 in there. Your strike force, you have a partner, so you've got 2 up there. They can work off each other, and then you've got this sort of interchangeable back 5, or not interchangeable, but it's kind of fluid, and I think you could still... The beauty of it is and in fact, you should play it in a proactive way. You should look to go and get forward. You should look to play the game in the opposition half, because I think anytime you use a back 3, it's about containing higher up the pitch and gaining territory. But it can be solid when it goes back to a 5-3-2 and you have to defend for those periods, and you've got an extra man back there, so... I just think it's time to go to the cheat code. It's time to shore it up a little bit. I mean, I guess they were using Gakpo and Salah as a front 2 in this game anyway. Just put an extra man at the back because the way we get opened up is embarrassing. But yeah, I think playing wise, that's about all you can do at this stage, apart from obviously start signing midfielders. But I don't think that's going to come until the end of the season. I think I don't know. I don't know where to next with this team, but I'm not gonna crucify. We're in a different position, sort of, just because of the highs we've come off. But I mean, the big question coming out of this, and I'll say before I go into... Actually, no, I'll leave that for later. But the big question that I have coming out of this for you, I guess, is who out of that Liverpool team and squad, who stays? Because I think it's gotten to a rebuild point now. And now you've got to start looking at players who can stay, or more, maybe a better question is what roles are you assigning to players as well going forward?
Well, I think you need to sell Salah. He's on the wrong side of 30. So sell him. You free up.
He's like 30, 31 though.
I think he's a year older. I think he's a year older than us. But still, like I said...
And we've seen players, especially players who take care of themselves like him, they can have long careers.
I watched that Brighton game and I've
watched... Had a really bad game,
but the couple of games that I've seen, and the games, even going back to... I can say last year now, it was a post-African Cup of Nations. Going back to then, I've not seen that Salah of old. He just seems that slightly bit slower. Seems like defenders have figured out how to play against him. Yes, because the team around him as well isn't functioning, he probably looks a little bit disheveled and demotivated as well. So you pile that in on top of the fact that he's getting a little bit older. He might have lost that, not that half yard of pace on the turn or on the acceleration, but just like the first, like even just like that first step. It just seems that and the same. I'm going to say the same thing for De Bruyne as well. The De Bruyne that's returned for City is the De Bruyne that played at the World Cup. Like it is not the same, and he even looks a little bit overweight. He looks like
he's always looked that way.
No, but he looks a little. No, but I know he's always, because I know that I made the comparison between my body type and his a while ago. Like if I was to remodel if I was to go back 20 years and then say I want to try and be like a player, it would be De Bruyne, because based on height and our body type, we're very similar, like builds. But he looks a little bit like he's come back a couple of kilos heavier than what he was pre-World Cup. But yeah, Salah, I honestly reckon sell him to free up 350,000 a week. Try and get 30, 40, 50 mil for him if you can. So I don't know who would necessarily want him. Maybe I don't know. Maybe someone would. Maybe Chelsea would want him. Sell him to Chelsea. But yeah, get rid of him.
I think on both those players, you're being way too harsh and way too reactionary off a couple of games, and I'm nowhere near ready to bury
it's not
either
a couple
of
of games for Salah. For Salah, it's not. It's a whole year.
How many goals do you think Mo Salah has scored in total in the last 2 seasons?
No, let's go last 12 months. 12 months.
He scored the same amount of goals 2 seasons ago and last season. In each season, he scored the same amount of goals total. How many do you think that was?
I don't know, 20?
31 in all competitions. How many do you think he is on at this stage of the season right now?
15 in all competitions.
17 in 27. He's on the same pace that he's been on the last 2 seasons.
How many
has Salah is the problem. He was terrible against Brighton, and he hasn't been the Salah who scored 31, 32 goals that first season he came. But that was blistering pace. You don't expect that. Or B, first half of last season Salah. But in terms of what he's done for his career, this is about on pace.
Look,
so I still think he's doing what he does, but he's not doing it in a good team anymore.
I don't think he is the sole reason why you're not functioning. There's many reasons why the team isn't functioning. But honestly, I do think that the best thing would be, because you asked me, who do you keep? Who do you sell? Sell Salah. Try and get 40 mil for him. Free up 350,000 a week so you can get more players and offer the players that you want to keep slightly higher wages. I would keep Trent because he's only like what 23, 24?
That's a no-brainer, man.
Yeah, like there's some that are no-brainers. I'd keep Henderson just to keep him around the club.
He becomes the new Milner.
Yes. I'd potentially keep Milner actually. Maybe not give him maybe just give him like an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup game here or there. But like he seems like he's a very good clubman.
Milner could stay as long as he wants, but he's got to understand he's not going to really get game time.
Obviously keep
if he is, something's gone wrong, like the start of this season.
Obviously keep Robertson. Sell Oxlade.
Robertson has not. To your point on form, Robertson hasn't been the same Robertson either. But I agree, keep him. But I think he's approaching 30. So the way he plays.
Let me just have a quick look how old he is. But I think he's on the right side of 30.
I think the front five's good. I think Thiago we could probably let go at this stage. I think he's too much of a luxury player.
He's 28.
We are not a. Yeah, he's had I think Klopp kind of has rode him into the ground. I don't know if he's quite done because he should still be peak, but the way he plays, he could be an old 28, Andy Robertson. But he is a modern day like fullback, like great Premier League fullback.
Yeah.
You just look at his assist numbers. I think he's the top assist defender in Premier League history. Actually,
I think he has more assists than Gerrard, doesn't he?
Yeah,
there was some stat regarding Gerrard that got thrown around last week or the week before. His assist numbers
are crazy. I'm hoping he's still pretty good, to be fair, but I just don't think he's quite that peak guy. But no one's that peak guy. I mean, Alisson you keep. He's been terrible this season. Van Dijk has been terrible this season.
You sell Chamberlain, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know how he's still at the club, to be quite honest. Him and
Firmino.
Firmino has to go just because we have so many numbers up front anyway. Because the front line's fine. So, I don't know. This rebuild...
Fabinho, he's posted...
Fabinho, man. Fabinho's fallen off a cliff this season. He is nowhere near it.
He's... off. Let me just have a look. He's... pretty sure
30, 31?
He's on the wrong side of 30. He's 29, actually. Oh.
Yeah. Well, this is what worries me. These players, they might be an old 28 and 29, having worked for Jurgen Klopp all these years, and not only that, but worked to such a high level as well. Because this team has, for many seasons, played nearly as many games as you can each season.
You know what it's like. Like you mentioned, it's an old 29 or old 30. It's like you see a used car. It's like, oh, it's a 2018 model. But it has like 300,000 kilometers on it because like it was used for like these massive like trips from like one city to the next.
Jurgen's been riding those things into the ground, man.
Yeah, actually,
that's the other question. Yeah. We've never seen Jurgen Klopp come. What he does after the 7th year.
Yeah, we've never seen him rebuild. We know how disastrous and make a new team.
Yeah, we haven't seen him rebuild like this, and it's time to rebuild and. So, I don't know, very uncertain. The ownership of Liverpool is in question. So, I don't know. It's good that we're still attracting talent, but we're attracting the wrong kind. Talk about scattershot approach to not rejuvenate that midfield is ludicrous for Liverpool. But to be a bit fairer to Liverpool than Chelsea, we got a decent price for Gakpo, I think. And I think he's a good player.
Oh, hang on.
So I think he'll have resale value anyway.
We lost you for a little bit.
Yeah, go on.
We lost you for a little bit.
I think he'll have resale value if things come to worse. But that midfield needs reinvestment. I don't think we're making Champions League this season.
And that's my point. I made it last week or the week before where I said if you don't get Champions League football, or if a team doesn't get Champions League football, and if you want to be a top team and you want to attract the top talent, you then need to offer, 20 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand more than what other teams are offering for the wages. So that's why you need to sell Salah, because if you don't get Champions League football this season, you need to free up the wage bill so that you can actually attract newer, younger talent and offer them that extra 10, 20, 30 grand a week.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily for that reason, but the reason that I'm inclined to agree with you if we get, I don't even think we need to be out there selling Salah, but if someone came in with any kind of interest, we would definitely have to listen to it. But the reason I want to sort of agree with you there is because he's part of the old team, and I think a lot of that old team needs to go. I just think the timeline won't match up. In fact, the only foundational pieces I want in this new team, on what I'm seeing, is Allison and Van Dijk and Trent. If you want to throw him in as a foundational piece, but he's a little bit of a luxury piece because of the way he defends, obviously. So, and they need to find some form because they've been as bad as Fabinho and Robbo, who are pieces that I'm not mentioning in the core pieces. So, I don't know. Those two were so crucial to particularly last season's success. They will need to get to some of those levels again. Otherwise, it will be a complete rebuild.
Well,
we're back to 2016 Jurgen Klopp. We have to start again.
When you had like...
We're starting from a better position with players like Jota and Gakpo and even Darwin up front and players like that, I guess.
Did Balotelli play under Klopp?
Nah, that was Rodgers.
So he got rid of him before then. All right. But look, I made the point to Matthias, and I've also made the point on this pod as well. Move Van Dijk over to the right, but now to move him over to the right to help Trent out and cover for Trent's defending deficiencies, sign Guardiola to have on the left. So that way you have a split between a left and right-sided centre back, a left and right-footed as well centre back. Guardiola fits.
We can't prioritize Guardiola at the moment because the midfield is so dire.
Yeah.
Like there's too many holes to plug.
But who do you get?
And with prices nowadays for players like that, you can't.
Okay, so my question before we move on and finish the pod with the Manchester derby, but like my question then is if FSG stays, so they give Klopp the normal sort of wage bill. They don't, where it's like maybe 150, 200 mil for the summer window. So FSG is staying. It's not going to be some Saudi or whatever Middle Eastern ownership where they're going to be like, okay, you get 500 mil. Who do you actually get? So Bellingham is going to be minimum 100. Rice as well, probably 100.
I think they need to. They need to get a bit. I think they need to get a bit more creative.
And Enzo, Chelsea, I think wanted to get Enzo. I think they were willing to pay 70 or 80. I think, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they were willing to pay that, and they wanted more. Benfica. So.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think that ship sailed after his World Cup performances.
Yeah. So Enzo's going to be 100 plus.
I would be looking at players like, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe a Koopmeiners from Atalanta, be a little bit cheaper. I think he'd fit into the system quite well as one of the three central midfielders. I'd be looking at a Marcos Llorente, see if he wants to leave Atletico. Atletico aren't in a great state themselves, and who knows if they change managers, maybe he wants a different challenge. But yeah, I think that marquee signing, just because of how many holes we need to plug, I think we need to almost go back to the old days where we were picking up Salahs and Manes for 30, 35 million.
How much,
and they were developing under Klopp.
How much do you think McAllister would go for? Or more? He'd go for more now because of the World Cup. So he wouldn't be 30 or 40.
You'd think,
he'd be like 60.
Yeah, you'd think so. Especially, look at the price that they got for Cucurella over the summer. Chelsea have inflated the market no end. Well, they've been probably the big catalyst at the moment. There's been plenty of other clubs who have inflated the market, don't get me wrong, but at the moment they're the big culprit. So, yeah, they're going to have to get creative. I think they're going to have to look at signings like that. I think they might have to go more obscure. But I don't really think there's a shortage of talent around the place. So if they can pick up some pieces here and there in important positions, and Klopp can be a coach again and go through that ride with a different group of players, then, but that's the big question mark. Does Klopp have the hunger? And I guess short term, if you're asking the question short term, just to put a bow on Liverpool before we go to something happier, is it now time to swallow your pride and maybe ask about Sofian Amrabat from Fiorentina? Maybe. I think he looks like a player who could help us this season, but I'd be hoping long term that he would, unless he improved a lot, like a Jordan Henderson, I would be hoping he would be a squad player at best in coming years, because that would mean we're a really good team. I don't think he should be in a starting 11 of a really good team from what I've seen so far, but he is a player who can help, maybe has a bit of confidence from the World Cup. But as well, and I think Liverpool fans are knowledgeable enough. If you did get a signing like that, I hope they wouldn't be thinking he's the Messiah and he's going to fix our problems, because I'm pretty sure most Liverpool fans can see that the problems go a lot deeper than that, but he might just help us in the short term, and then we can look for different targets in the off season. But yeah, Liverpool, so many question marks, short term, long term, however long. And like I said, if you're a neutral who has been watching us for the last 5 seasons, this is kind of like a revenge season for everyone out there, because we routinely went to the Amex and sort of Brighton usually at least gave us a football match, but we would normally roll them wherever we kind of played them. But now this season, we're giving everyone a chance, and you can have your revenge. It's almost like there was a season when Golden State, when Kevin Durant did his Achilles and moved to Brooklyn, and Steph Curry, I think next season had a really injury-prone season, and Klay Thompson did his ACL during the finals. And everywhere the Warriors went, they were just getting trounced, because there was all these years of like them rolling into people's houses and just like wiping the floor with them. Well, now you have your revenge, and teams at the Premier League can, I don't know if they should lap it up, because we could be in a bad position for years to come. But that's how worrying it is for a Liverpool fan. But right now, enjoy it, because we are there for the taking for anyone.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It just seems like a wounded gazelle after being attacked by a pride of lions, but like instead of eating the gazelle, they're just leaving it for the other the other animals to have a chomp at. Just on the Amrabat, like the story came out 12 hours ago. Apparently, Fiorentina has said that they're not planning on selling him this transfer window. But then again, money talks, so that just means that Liverpool need to offer 5, 10, 15, 20 mil more than what they're planning to.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. I'd rather soak up this piece of shit.
Yeah. Moving on, though, is it really a happier topic for you, being a Liverpool fan, that United won?
Yeah, well, from a footballing perspective, yeah, maybe. I mean, like, honestly, in recent years, I've hated City a lot more than I've hated United, just because of relevance. But United still are the chief. They're my childhood tormentor, obviously.
They're the chief hated team.
Tormentor in chief,
yeah. But where do you want to begin with this one? Like, do you want to start off with the controversial talking point? So we'll throw that one in straight away and get that one over and done with.
Oh yeah, all right. Go on, give us your. Let's do it quick. I don't want to spend too long on this.
All right, for me it was offside.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
No, all right. Here's my.
Let's see. Hang on. All right. Let's see if we agree. If we have the same rationale and like the same reasoning why it was offside.
Why it was offside is because I think when you run alongside the ball, you're interfering with play. But why it wasn't given and why there's even a debate is because Akanji should have run through the back of Marcus Rashford as hard as he could. He should have just run through him and cleaned him up, because he slows down, and now all of a sudden there is a question, is Akanji even getting to that ball if Rashford's not there? Why did Akanji not sprint and I would have just cleaned Rashford up, because like my thinking there would have been, oh, he's trying to be a little bit clever here running beside the ball. I know you're offside, so I'm just going to barge you in the back. And then as soon as I do that, you have to be given as offside because you're interfering with my line to the ball. Why didn't Akanji make a bigger deal of it? Why did he not actually try and get to the ball? And now all of a sudden, for me, you don't deserve to get punished in that way. But now you've left a question, like why we're even questioning whether it's onside or offside. For me, it's like it should be offside, but Akanji needs to make a bigger deal of it. He needs to go and make an effort to go and get that ball.
I actually have not heard that perspective on it, where like Akanji should have taken those measures, but I think we agree that Rashford ran alongside of the ball. He disrupted the running path of Akanji enough, because like Akanji was right behind Rashford, so like if Akanji wants to get to the ball, he needs to go through Rashford. And yeah, like it was enough of a disruption, enough of an influence on the play that the City players slowed down because they know 100% that that Rashford is offside. And
also, just before you go on, you'd also expect Edison to probably come out for that ball if he thinks Rashford's, or if Rashford's not there, because knowing the way he goalkeeps as well.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, there's a difference between like if Rashford, for instance, was offside, which he was, but then he takes a step, but then doesn't continue, and then Bruno runs onto it. I have no qualms with that. Like that's like okay,
Yeah.
Wonderful. But because he ran after it pretty much until Bruno kicked the ball, it's like this is offside.
He was right next to it as well, right next to the ball.
Like he's influencing it, and he may not have touched the ball, but like the ball was going slow enough and he was going quick enough that he could have taken a touch at any point and it would have been under control. Like it wouldn't have been like a miscontrol or whatnot. Like it would have been completely under control. And so yeah, I think we agree that it should have been given as offside. And in that instance, City was hard done by. But also to your point where you said like Akanji should have went through the back of him, like there was, and like I guess that sort of rolls on to like there's that lapse of concentration or lapse of judgment. But like, you know what? Throughout the whole game, I had that feeling with City, where there's this sluggishness in their mentality. There's this misunderstanding and misreading of the game. Like I saw so many wayward passes where they're passing behind the player a lot of times, that they're passing too heavily and the ball is going out of play for a throw in. I saw that so many times, and it's just so uncharacteristic for City. And considering the first half was 0-0, I'm like, United actually had they had the more dangerous chances in that first half. I think City had no shots on goal, let alone on target. So yeah, like City were just, man, like if this City shows up to the Emirates, they're getting heavily beat, I reckon.
Oh, great. And especially to the point as well, the lapses of concentration, especially if they're rocking up Ruben Diaz-less. And even when Ruben Diaz was playing, was he in fine form this season? Maybe not. Talked about João Cancelo, hasn't been in good form. Ake's been in good form, but he's a number 2. He's not a guy I want holding down the fort, neither with Akanji, and Akanji was diabolical. Back to the Borussia Dortmund Akanji that always flattered to deceive for me. He was a player who I would look at him on the pitch, because you look at this strapping physique that he has as a centre-back, and it's like, that guy's got to be a class centre-back. Always had a mistake in him, and this game he has arguably 2. I think he should have made a bigger deal for the offside. You could gripe over that, but definitely the second goal just falls asleep and loses. Marcus Rashford, the guy who is in some of the best form of any player in Europe right now, and you just forget about him in the Manchester derby in the 80th minute. It's madness for me. And as well, Ake should probably stop that cross as well at source. He gets turned inside out by the young lad who gets his cross away somehow. I don't know how. So, yeah, City, I thought on the footballing sense, we started with the decision, but on the footballing sense, United deserved everything that they got in this game. I know second half, City were a lot better, and that's because United's game plan was to match up with City and make it a lot of 1v1 battles all over the pitch, a la what Newcastle did at St James's Park earlier in the season, where we saw a lot of 1v1 battles on the pitch. And I think a bigger picture point on this game, and it was demonstrated in this game, is where these two teams are in their cycle. And it showed in Newcastle as well. The hungrier team, when you make it an individual battle game, have a great chance of coming out on top in that game. Because when you make it a 1v1 and you're telling the City players, you have to out physical me. You have to be sharper and out physical me in a 1v1 battle. And and we know City aren't playing to their level as well, so what a great time to meet them. But I just think the hunger has so much to do with that. And the hunger of the entire club's sort of path and trajectory is sort of exemplified in this game. Because when you make it that kind of game, yes, we saw for City taking the lead, moments of individual class, can tell. And De Bruyne was instrumental in producing moments in the second half, getting the better of Fred, who in the first half had him in his pocket and the fans were loving it. But yeah, then the hunger levels showed and United were able to weather the storm and then come back into the game and City's lapses showed. And they're the lapses of a team who are a little bit on the downside and a little bit relying on players who haven't proven themselves to be reliable. And this is my theory. When players like Akanji and Nathan Ake start getting praise for their performances in the season, something isn't completely right, because those type of players, yeah, they should get mentioned if the team's doing well and you're part of the team, but they shouldn't be overly mentioned, because once those players start being overly mentioned, I think for me it means your top players aren't performing to the level that they need to be. And I think post-World Cup, we got a bit of Nathan Ake praise. We got a bit of Akanji praise, I think, as well. I know Guardiola and Rico Lewis as well. He got a lot of praise. I know he's young, but whatever, man. Like, he's very overstated. So I think it's a function of City. Like we said, I think City would be not in the same shambles that Liverpool are in. Because I think they're a bit better equipped, but I don't think the hunger's there. I don't think how can you expect it to be there? This team is always challenging. City maybe are the team who can cling on to the hopes that maybe they could put it all together for the Champions League, and maybe that will be the thing that focuses them really properly and gets some City-like performances. But again, on evidence, that is just a cling. It's not an assertion. It's not something we're expecting to see, because on evidence, this team isn't playing very well at all. And I thought, yeah, today, or the game, was a microcosm of where they are on their trajectory. And when we get into the nitty gritty of the game, I thought Ten Hag, our coach Pep Guardiola as well.
You know how you mentioned like the 1v1 battles? I was thinking in that first half, especially the whole week, I reckon the United coaching staff just was showing to every single player. They're like, okay, this is your task. This is the individual 1v1 battle that you're going to have with this player. And they just showed them footage of like, okay, if this, of mannerisms, okay, if this person shifts a little bit left, they're going to continue going left. If they shift a little bit right, they're going to actually go left. And so on. Like, they're like, okay, study this player this whole week so that you know exactly what to do. And like, Mahrez was a little bit ineffective. Foden was ineffective. Haaland barely saw the ball. Like, they're not utilizing Haaland at all. In the first 10-15 minutes, he was coming a little bit deep and trying to receive the ball off the defenders around the center circle. I'm like, okay, well, this is something a little bit different. But then that completely stopped afterwards.
Why that stopped, though? Because every time he did it, no City player ever wanted to pass him the ball. And I kind of think rightly so. Because like we said, I think they're using Haaland as a weakness against them teams. Because this United game plan was very, very similar to the Chelsea game plan, except executed to an even higher level, I think, as well. Although Chelsea as well could have got a better result against City when they played them at Stamford Bridge, I thought.
Yeah, but also to add on top of that, City got trapped by that naivety that Arsenal got trapped by as well. After that after that United goal went through, they had that 5 minute lapse. We're like, okay, crap, we need to get this goal back. So they pushed too many men forward, and then they got countered and they got done. So they got done by naivety again, and I honestly, on the whole basis of the game though, I thought that, I thought that the result was a fair result and well deserved. Yes, there was that controversial decision, but on the basis of the game, if you're not gonna give a draw, so you can only go win for one, win for the other, I think United were more deserving of the win than City.
Yeah, and on your Haaland point, which will lead on to our coaching point, but the Haaland point, you could see that he was trying to do the Aguero, and he is not Sergio Aguero. Sergio Aguero was such a good link-up player for those early Pep teams, especially that Centurion team of Man City, and they were trying to use him in the same way. So City went back to the tried and tested formation. The 4-3-3, João Cancelo at left back, Kyle Walker at right back. I thought Kyle Walker actually had a pretty decent game. He was at least trying to look for solutions against United's press. But again, that goes to my point. When you're having to single out Kyle Walker as having a good game, it means your best players haven't had a good game. Bernardo Silva didn't have a very good game. I think he's had his head turned since the summer, and I think he's kind of wanted to go to Barcelona since then, or at least leave England. And that's not surprising for a player from Portugal to want to go to Spain, go back to that warmer climate after years of serving Man City. I'm not surprised by that, to be quite honest. But he hasn't been the same player. De Bruyne, like you touched on, I think he nearly has been the same player, to be fair. But in this game, for the most part, Brett did do a good job on him, but De Bruyne did make the difference for the goal as well. So, I mean, that's what City kind of are now. They're a moments team, I guess. But the Haaland point is, I don't know why you're dropping him into the holes when United, they're trying to press high, but they are giving your centre-backs time on the ball. Because what United were doing, they were pressing with this expandable and retractable diamond, which sort of gave Man City problems in the shape that they play out, because now the fullbacks for City had to go quite wide to pick up the ball, because if they tucked inside, the United diamond would retract and it would cut off those passing lanes or man mark them out of the game. But what it did meant was the one at the front of the diamond, Martial in the first half, until they changed it, but he had to go 1 against 2 on the centre-backs and 1 against 3 if you include Ederson, which you should utilise Ederson's kicking more as well in this situation. So they were getting time on the ball. But Haaland kept trying to drop into the gaps, Aguero-like, and for me that's wrong. Manchester United are playing Luke Shaw as a centre-back. Erling Haaland is 6'5". Pin him up against Luke Shaw and play direct into him and get your midfielders picking up second balls. But Pep is so bogged down in the process, so bogged down in we have to play out all the time. And to be fair, who am I to question it? Because look at the success he's had. But in this game in particular, it killed them because they utilised Erling Haaland all wrong. Play direct. You've got a 6'5" beast up front. Make him go into aerial duels against Luke Shaw and get players around it. And then you don't have to worry about Manchester United's expandable and retractable diamond 4 up front to press. Now the ball goes over the top of them, and now they've got split holding midfielders because they're trying to mark De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva out of the game. And there's huge space in front of Haaland. Get your players running onto those second balls. Outwork them in that moment. But Pep was never going to play. He's never going to play a long ball football. He's never going to play a direct football. And now teams are using that against him because he's misusing Haaland. And Haaland isn't seeing this because I think as well. But is he allowed to see that? Does Pep allow his players to problem solve in that way, which goes against the principles? Probably not. So I think in this game, Ten Hag got it completely right, particularly first half. Yes, because it was a match-up game, City in the second half came out with a better focus and a better intensity for the start of that and started getting on top a little bit. But in terms of coaching, what you can do with the players at your disposal, Ten Hag easily got the better of Pep on this day.
Yeah, I agree. And now the gap is 1 point, I think, between City and United. So
yeah, and also I just want to wrap this up before you go into yours. There's also question marks. I think more question marks on where's Julian Alvarez. And where's the 4-4-2 that I thought they might play at the start of the season? Because if Haaland can pin himself against Shaw, and they're leaving this big hole in the middle of the park, why isn't Julian Alvarez who can link up the play in that team trying to do that? And where's Calvin Phillips? I thought maybe you could start to play him as a centre back, and in this game in particular, with United playing the way they did, his range of passing would have been pretty valuable from the back. But I guess him playing longer passes, more direct passes, goes against Pep. But I just think there's a few question marks of where are these players? Why aren't we looking at different solutions to these problems? Especially when I think Chelsea offered exactly the same problems to you at Stamford Bridge. So this isn't something I'm pulling out of the archives from months ago. This is something that happened last weekend or 2 weekends ago in your last away trip at another big club. Like, surely you've got to come better prepared. And I think they tried for the main part to do the same things, and they got a worse result. And they could have got a bad result at Stamford Bridge. But yeah, I think City have a lot of question marks.
Yeah. Now with the gap being 8 points, and I know that Arsenal have to play City twice, and also coming up this weekend they also have United. But and we saw last season with the gap being 11 or 13 points, albeit with 2 games in hand for Liverpool. And we've also seen other gaps in the past of this sort of 8 to 10 point range being closed. But then you also factor in and contrast how City are playing versus how Arsenal are playing. Can you really say that City are still favourites to win the title?
No way. And even just for the points gap alone, you couldn't say that. But the way they're playing, yeah, no way. Arsenal football-wise are arguably the best team in Europe. And, well, I guess City aren't miles off it, but that's more to the level that other teams are off. But City might be just on current form, obviously. And they can rectify this. And like I suggested, maybe they can in the Champions League. But for the league now, the way Arsenal look, they're setting... Well, if Arsenal win their next game, they are literally setting a Centurion pace.
Yeah, because
City aren't going to catch
that's literally halfway through the season then.
And if they win it, they're on 50, yeah.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting how things go. But we have midweek. We have Tottenham City. Do you want to just quickly touch on that, and then if you want to touch on Europe, or if you want to do Caleb's corner? And
We'll do that. That's perfect. We'll touch on that. We'll maybe give a little shout out to Newcastle as well.
Yeah,
who had a really big game against Fulham.
They got a bit of a fortunate result there, didn't they? Because didn't Mudryk miss a penalty?
Yeah, he double hit it. Yeah. He slipped and hit it with his standing foot, and rightly so, it wasn't given. But I thought Newcastle were the better team in the game, especially when you think they're coming up against a really solid Fulham side who were flying this season. They had to play well. They didn't play with all cylinders firing. They have been a little bit wasteful in front of goal recently, but they get the important goal. And my point on Newcastle, just before we preview that Tottenham City game, Guimaraes picked up an injury. It'll be interesting to see.
I think it's a really serious one, apparently.
Yeah, he tried to play for the whole of... I think he did it early in the first half. And look, I know it's probably not the right thing to do, but I did love seeing that he was trying to play. He's just like, I'm gonna give it a go, but maybe it wasn't the best thing for him. But I kind of love seeing it. But yeah, if that's serious, he is the jewel in their crown, and that's gonna be nasty. But yeah, I think for Newcastle, I sort of started the game when I was watching. I thought there's maybe a few signs that they're coming back down to earth just a little bit. But then by the end of the game, I think with the Guimaraes injury, it gave a chance for Sam Maximan to come on. He was okay in this game, but it gives him a chance in maybe the coming weeks to show us why. Going into the season, we probably thought he was Newcastle's most exciting player. Almiron's taken that crown from him in the front areas. But also, Alexander Isak comes on and scores the winner. And I think Eddie Howe's been quoted to say it's like a new signing for them. So maybe with Callum Wilson, if he goes a little bit dry, Isak picks up the slack. And it's very much that sort of lever thing that I was talking about with Liverpool from last season, Napoli from this season. If someone drops off, someone else picks up the slack. So hopefully for Newcastle's sake, that is what we see. I still think they were quite good in this game against Fulham, like I said. But there were just little signs that they were coming back down to earth just a little bit. But this is a huge win for them against, sixth place Fulham? So, yeah, to get that last minute win at St. James's Park, keep that momentum rolling. For me, there's a very clear top four in the league at the moment, and things are going to have to change performance-wise for me to get off the assertion that the top four, the way it is right now, is how the top four will look at the end of the season. And yeah, that means I'm putting Newcastle in it. So they deserve their love for what they're doing, and they've been getting a fair bit of it, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair. So just quickly before we're gonna do Europe or no?
Yeah, we'll do a little bit of Europe. I don't have that much more to talk about after Napoli Juve.
All right. All right. So just quickly, City versus Tottenham. That's coming up on Thursday, I believe. 2 out of form teams. I don't know if that's. I think it's at City. Who do you think takes that, and how do you think that's going to play out?
I can't tell. I think Tottenham are a bad team for City to be playing right now, especially a Tottenham who probably you'd be hoping that they're looking for a reaction after a North London derby defeat on home soil. So that could be a really bad game for City to be playing right now. Obviously, as we've said, a City team out of form, but a Tottenham team out of form as well. But this kind of challenge, especially away from home, is the kind of challenge that Conte loves, because doesn't put him in any kind of bind to have to try to play football. He can do the same number and same job that he did on City last season at the Etihad if he so wishes. So yeah, I think this is a bad game for City to be getting. But Tottenham as well, there's a lot of jeopardy because they kind of need to hang on to the coattails of that current top four. And you'd think that another loss here, I mean, I know it will only be the halfway point of the season, but that top four is looking harder and harder to get into if they can't win this. So I think the fact that it's at home, I think the fact that they should have all of the play, I will say that probability will win out, and just because of the way that these two teams play, City rely on a bit less luck than Tottenham, so I'll say City will win this, but probably not very convincingly. And to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if Tottenham won it either. I think all results are possible.
Yeah, you expect... So both teams lost, but because City is City, you expect that they will bounce back, and they will bounce back with a vengeance based on the team and the profile of players that they have.
Well, let's not forget they lost in midweek in the League Cup before this United game.
Yeah.
And I know it's just the League Cup, but it was still a reasonably strong team named that night.
Yeah, but still, like, the form that they're in at the moment as well, and yeah, like you said, you wouldn't be surprised if Tottenham win. And I said it earlier though, like Tottenham are sort of in a bad spot now where they can potentially create like a 6-point gap for like an extra 6 points on top of what's already made on these two results for Arsenal on City. So this is an 8-point gap at the moment. If they win, then it becomes an 11-point gap, albeit Arsenal have a game in hand. So that can become 14 though, if Arsenal win their next weekend, and if Tottenham win now, that can become a 14-point gap. Holy shit! I just realised that.
Yeah, we got a big week of football coming up this week as well.
Wow, that's actually massive. If yeah, holy shit.
I think
I
it's
did
kind
not
of rightly so.
I did not realize that it could become 14 points if results go that way. So
Yeah, but you guys have your own test on the weekend, which is
yeah,
one that
but
I
even
think everyone will be very eager to watch.
yeah, but even so, even if Arsenal lose that, but Tottenham win midweek,
Yeah.
that's 11 points, and then it's equal games.
Wait, Arsenal aren't playing midweek, are they?
No, they're
Are they?
not. But they're gonna have
No, well
one
then it'll
game
stay
less.
at 8 points if Man City lose and Arsenal lose as well. Won't go to 11.
But then
Yeah.
it can become 14 if Arsenal win their game in hand, which is against City and against Everton. But then the City Arsenal one, but their game in hand from the Queen's birthday is Everton. I don't know
Yeah,
when
but I
I
think
don't know
your
when they're
point
gonna
is
play
right.
that.
It's almost now or never for Man City to start making the run.
Yeah,
Because if it starts getting to those numbers, the way Arsenal are playing, you don't see anyone catching them. So
yeah. I think that's
they're
the
going to
main.
have to start putting something
I
together.
think that's the main point. Like we're looking at how these teams are playing, and the way that City is playing compared to the way Arsenal is playing. Like it's almost night and day.
Yeah, at the moment for
Yeah,
sure. I mean, I know we're hard on City right now, and it can change if focus changes, but in terms of the league, that needs to change week in, week out, and I question their hunger to want to do that, and I thought, the United game just showed that. So, are we happy with what we've done on the Premier League?
yeah. Should be good to go to Caleb's corner for Europe.
Well, I've got something a little bit interactive. You don't have to have watched the game, but I'll start with giving the synopsis of the game. And the apart from Napoli versus Juve, the other story for me came out of Serie A, and it came with what now are Napoli's chief challengers, who moved into second, but not the way they would have liked to move into second. Milan going away to Lecce on the Saturday, and they had a bit of a dark night. They were 2-0 down in the first half in this game. Theo Hernandez had a really rough game. Scored an own goal in the 4th minute, and then I think was at fault for losing his man for the second goal as well. Got hooked at half time, which is a mad position to think that you'd be in to hook the guy that you trusted to be captain earlier in the season when some players were out, when Calabria, for example, was out. So he gets hooked at halftime, especially in a game where you're 2-0 down and you need to come back into the game. I think he's probably the biggest piece, one of the biggest pieces in trying to come back. As it turned out, Rafael Leao scored a great goal to make it 2-1, and then Calabria was able to pop up with a captain's goal to make it 2-2. They weren't able to complete the comeback, but I think it was a really dark night for Milan. I'm interested to see where to now on the smaller scale for Theo Hernandez, whether he did get hooked, whether there's something brewing there, and whether, because I think a player of that caliber will probably want to move on. But here's the bigger question, and this is why it's interactive. Should Milan be a buying club or a selling club at this stage? Well, I think they'd want to be a buying club, but do you think they'll be a buyer or a seller come in the next transfer market? On the assumption as well that they're probably not going to win this title.
It depends what their position is financially, because you contrast that with Juve. Juve apparently is in the dumps financially. So much so.
Well, we know Serie A financially isn't one of the greatest.
Yeah, but you can still
leagues.
be not necessarily a profitable club, but like breaking even. I think with Juve, I think the rumor is that because they're so much in the financial dumps that they might be breaking rules apparently, which could auto relegate them to Serie B. I don't think.
Oh, there's nothing new there, is there?
Yeah, I don't think AC Milan. I don't think they're at that level where,
Okay, all right.
financially. If they need to sell, they're gonna have to sell.
Let's work on the assumption they don't need to sell. But do you think they can keep hold of the players they have? Because here's the outlay: Mike Mignon in goal is a world-class goalkeeper. Theo Hernandez, a left back, is a world-class left back. Sandro Tonali is a world-class young prospect. Probably not a world-class player just yet, but he's close. And Rafael Leao is a world-class winger. They have four pieces that I think, in terms of a core, rival a lot of teams in Europe. But the question now is, are they able to keep them, and are they able to build on them? Because when I watch AC Milan, they're a one-half team. And what I mean by this is I'm always excited when I watch Milan when the ball is on their left-hand side and when it's Rafael Leao and Theo Hernandez linking up. But when the ball goes out to the right-hand side, I couldn't give a toss less what's happening. Because what's going to happen there? Salamakers is going to do something? Probably not. Calabria is a really good functional right back, but he's not going to create anything. So, like, for me, it's pretty obvious as an opposition. You load up on the left, make them switch the ball out to the right. What are they going to do on the right? It's interesting I say this as well, because I think there's a really good right winger out there who could be on the market given Leverkusen's current struggles. And I think Moussa Diaby is a really exciting young winger who could potentially make the difference for Milan because they need a right winger. And another position as well. And I think it's time to give up on Ante Rebic, who just looks injury prone all the time now. But it's looking more and more to me like Olivier Giroud has been milked for all he is worth. And I don't know if he's a viable striker for Milan going forward. So this game against Lecce, while they were able to get the point, it's left me with a lot of question marks of where to now for Milan. Do they keep this core intact and build on it in the coming seasons, or will they not be able to because the really big clubs will want all four of those players, because those four players are truly very good players, if not world class.
So my question is, with those players that you mentioned, where do they move where they walk into the starting 11? Theo
Hernandez, I've said it, Real Madrid.
And clubs that are actually going to be winning titles, like almost guaranteed winning titles. Like you said, Real Madrid. Real Madrid is like guaranteed to win a trophy every season.
The only top club that Theo Hernandez couldn't walk into is Bayern Munich, because they already have Alphonso Davies, who is splendid in his own right, and he's young as well. He's younger than Theo Hernandez, so they got something to build. But every other top club, Theo Hernandez could walk into. Rafael Leao, the only... probably Real Madrid, PSG, he can't walk into, but he would fill a very good position for Man City, because I think every time I watch Man City, they always want to keep the width. Mahrez is a good option on the right, but whenever they use Foden on the left, I'm not convinced. I think they need a better winger out there. Grealish the same. He's not a winger for me. So Rafael might fill a void there. He probably wouldn't get into Bayern just because they've only just invested in Mane. But he's young, though.
Would you want him at
Rafael Leao's
Liverpool?
only like 24. No, because we got so many attackers, man. We don't need him.
But you don't have anyone on the left.
But... No, Gakpo plays on the left if you need. Jota can play on the left as well. Diaz. Diaz plays on the left.
Diaz.
For
Sure,
yeah. When he comes back. So, yeah, Rafael Leao, he could have his suitors. He's probably a bit more limited than Theo. I think Tonali could just about play anywhere. I know.
I want him at Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. He could play at Arsenal. I think he could play anywhere, to be quite. Maybe Bayern is the only one that he wouldn't walk into the team. Especially with Bernardo Silva dropping off at City. Mike Mignon. Okay, goalkeeper. That's an interesting question.
Tottenham.
Bayern Munich.
Tottenham.
Yeah. Tottenham for me aren't a bigger club than AC. I think that'd be a sideways
They're not.
move.
Yeah. What about? They're actually playing against each other, aren't they?
Yeah. I can't remember the draw for the.
I think they are playing against each other, but the other one, United, because apparently De Gea's always rumored to leave United, so like maybe United.
Yeah, United, we kind of need to see what their trajectory is for the rest of the season. If they're in a genuine title challenge and they challenge for Europa League as well, then you'd be pretty confident of the trajectory that United are on as well. So you could add them. I wasn't really thinking... I was thinking of top clubs, because I think these four players will go to top. So maybe United are getting to the point where they might be that, but I still need to see it for the rest of the season with them.
Can we stop talking about United being in a title race? If they... this weekend coming up, based on the result, then we'll potentially talk about it. But until then, can we stop that? Can we stop that narrative?
Well, right now, they're as good a challenger as anyone. So we're looking for a challenger. They're as good as anyone.
Yeah, but they're still further. They're still further behind than City.
1 point.
Doesn't matter. They're still further behind. They're 9 points behind. That's 3 wins.
Well, if we're still going to talk about City as a challenger, we got to put United there because up to this point,
but the thing is, City
pretty much the same thing that City have done.
The thing is, City need to play Arsenal twice, so they can close that gap to 2 points.
And United still need to play them once, and they've already picked up 3 points against them.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying, if we're going to put City there, look, it could well be the fact that there is no challenger for the title. That's how much better Arsenal are than the rest.
Fingers crossed.
That could be a fact.
Fingers crossed. But even, all right, and I'm not just saying this because Arsenal are top. Even if it was City top, I still wouldn't, like, even if it was roles reversed, I still wouldn't have that conversation just yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But
yeah, did you have anything to add on Milan? Because they're all my questions, and I'm getting dark here, as everyone could see.
Yeah. Well, did Kessie leave on a free, or was he sold to Barca?
Yeah, he left on a free.
Yeah, see, that's sort of like letting him go on a free after you just won the title. That sort of shows your intention. Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. Great point there. I guess I'll wrap up Italy. Inter get a 1-0 win against Verona at home. Pretty unconvincing. Scored in the early stages. Didn't look great at that point after that. So Inter continue to be Inter and not really show up to games against lesser opposition. But if they're playing a big team, then they'll probably show up. So, yeah, Inter. And like I said, with Dumfries, that's one to watch as well. He's not playing at the moment. I thought he was one of Inter's better players from last season. So that's an interesting one to watch, especially if Tottenham want to persist with wing-backs, that would be a good one to look out for them. The rest of the race for top four in Italy, Lazio get a win at Sassuolo, 2-0. They had to fight for it. They didn't look all that convincing. Second half, they looked better. Fairly comfortable. Sassuolo in a relegation race. Just quietly, Sergei Milinkovic-Savic hasn't been good for a while now. He's been all right, but he hasn't been like good Sergei for a while, and I think that's coincided with Lazio maybe having a dip of form, especially post-World Cup. Fiorentina going to Roma. Fiorentina look shambolic. Dodo, the right back, gets himself sent off, and he's as dead as a dodo from that point. But it was disgraceful because he was almost laughing about his second yellow card challenge. And I'm just like, what the... I would want to terminate his contract if I was his manager. But yeah, I think that's another reason you could go for Amrabat, because Fiorentina look a bit shambolic. Roma, as usual, the only reason you'll watch Roma is for Paulo Dybala. Tammy Abraham assisted him for 2 goals in this game, so he did all right, at least like that. I think he's enjoying having Dybala back. But yeah, Roma continue to not do too much. And a word of mention for Atalanta. I know I mentioned Koopmeiners as a possible target for Liverpool, maybe. He fits that mold. But yeah, they put 8 past Salernitana at home, which is a bit crazy. Yeah. Atalanta are a club who have the ability to do that, but their defense still worries me. Palomino now. I don't know what's happened to not Jim City, who's Demiral, the Turkish centre-back who they got from Juve. I thought they looked more solid with him as the central centre-back. Since they've moved away from that, they haven't looked as solid, but they looked good with Jeremy Boga and Ademola Lookman just playing behind Rasmus Højlund, who's the young 19-year-old Danish striker, kind of in a Vlahovic sort of poor man's Haaland mould. Very powerful, left-footed. I think he bagged 1 or 2 in this game as well. They all got 1 because it was 8 goals. And that wraps up Italy. There's a good, interesting race for top 4 between Lazio, Roma, Atalanta, I think all on 31 points. And then Inter, I think, are only 3 points ahead of that. So that'll be interesting as it goes along. Over to Spain, not much was happening because the Super Cup's going on, but there was the Basque Derby, which Sociedad were able to win 3-1, and now they've opened up a 7-point gap on Atletico, I think, in 4th place, who only got a 1-1 draw at Almeria. But yeah, I feel Kubo was really good in this game. He gives me Almiron vibes. He looks like a player who has all the potential, but he needs to get that end product to go to the next level. He had a good game. Sociedad's midfield diamond needs to be heralded. David Silva's still doing bits. Mikel Merino sort of playing kind of like a Joelinton in central midfield, a big physical lad, and they use him as an outball to play over presses as well. He's been really good. As well, Bryce Mendes, who has been popping up with goals recently as well. So Sociedad have stolen a march on getting into that top four, while, like I mentioned, Atletico continue to falter. A 1-1 draw away at Almeria. Griezmann playing as an out-and-out central midfielder until he wasn't. It was interesting in this game. It was weird. I don't know why he did it, but Atletico came out. They started okay. They were given a few chances away because they had a makeshift centre-back partnership in Hermoso and Witzel at the back, with Jimenez and Savic both out. They did all right. They got a 1-0 lead. Griezmann with a lovely dummy for Correa, who finished. And then Simeone decided to play a 5-3-2 when they were playing a 4-3-3 until that point. And I thought it was a decent-looking 4-3-3. And then he went to a 5-3-2 and they conceded pretty much a minute later after he did that. And the weird thing was, it was Marcos Llorente who was asking to play as the right wing-back, with Molina playing as the wide centre-back, when you had Reinildo on the other side, who can play as a wide centre-back, who was playing as a left wing-back. So if you're going to do it, I thought he got the personnel wrong. I don't know why he did it anyway, go to that formation, and they conceded because of it. And then later in the game, they go back to the... I thought they had an interesting-looking 4-3-3 with Llorente and Lamar sort of playing as the wingers, but not really wingers because they have central midfield tendencies. So they were asked to keep the width at times, but at other times, especially on the right, you could get Molina overlapping. Reinildo sort of stayed tucked into the centre-backs and let Lamar provide the width. But I thought it was interesting to see how that was shaping up, and then he changed it for no reason, and they walk away with a draw for no reason. They're lucky because Villarreal drew against Celta on the Friday night, so they couldn't open up a little lead in fourth place, and now Betis will be coming back from the Super Cup pretty happy, and they've got a chance, I think, a game in hand, and they've got a chance to go 3 points clear when they come back and when they play that game in hand. So, yeah, Spain, the race for top four, obviously the race for the title was somewhat put on hold, but Sociedad, big winners over in Spain, and Bilbao, big losers. They've been in a wretched run of form, and they're all but out of the top four race now. And yeah, Nico Williams has had a bit of a stall, as has the whole team, really. So disappointing for them. And then just finally, as I normally do, a little thought on PSG. And the Bundesliga comes back next weekend, so we'll have a bit of German football. And that comes back with Leipzig against Bayern, which will be a really tasty clash, I think, on a Friday night as well, which is always fun. But yeah, PSG lose again, like I think we were saying at the start of the pod, but 2 challenges, 2 losses, Lens and now Rennes. I thought they were very lethargic. Messi did nothing in the game. Neymar did nothing in the game. Rennes were okay. They were fine, what you'd expect from a fourth-place French team. Workmanlike, much in the Lens role, actually, but I just prefer watching Lens a little bit more. But yeah, PSG, fully unimpressive. They looked a bit better when Mbappe came on towards the end of the game, and they'll be interested to see how that develops. I'm worried for Neymar. I don't think he's come back in the right headspace after the World Cup, and I would not be surprised to see him leave for his sister's birthday yet again, because I don't think he's fully back with the team, and it will be interesting to see how long Messi's World Cup glow lasts for, because there were almost signs that the shine was coming off in this game, and they lose this game, obviously, and Messi played the full 90 minutes. They revert back to the wretched 5-2-3, which is always horrible to see. The midfield is always horrible to see, and yeah, even the defense is conceding crucial goals that are losing these games at the moment. So yeah, PSG not looking convincing, but they have the talent that they could still do it. But yeah, I always have to give an update on PSG, and yeah, I'm not convinced by what I see at all. And I've got to add this, it's 3 points now between them and Lens. So we have a sneaky title race in France, which is so good to see because Lens deserve it. They've been fantastic this season. So yeah, that's the roundup from Europe. And no real midweek games apart from that City Tottenham game. I think there's one other Premier League game. So yeah, we'll have a
Crystal
relatively
Palace,
quiet
someone.
week. Yeah. So we'll have a relatively quiet week actually this week.
Yeah.
But we'll be back later in the week to do the preview, and maybe we could do some fun things in there as well if there's some ranking sort of things or something like that.
Yeah, we'll try to think of something. Caleb, we can almost not see you. Like it's a massive contrast. Like the sun,
light switch is just out of reach.
it's almost like I've stolen your sunlight because mine has gotten actually more lighter because more light has come through. Because we started like around 8:30 my time.
It's 9:10 over here.
Yeah, dude. Let's wrap this puppy up. So to everyone who's stuck with us so far. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment and all that good stuff.
Comment. Yeah, we want views. We want opinions.
Yeah, leave some comments.
Give us something to address. If we get a really good comment, we'll address it in the next pod.
Yeah, we definitely will. But to everyone, thanks for coming, and bye for now.